Hi guys, Tom here with Mission Motorsports in Irvine, and today I'm going to talk to you about Honda's 2019 Goldwing DCT Tour. Okay guys, first of all I'm just going to go over some of the changes with you. Honda remodeled their Goldwing in 2018, and this is a 2019, but nothing changed from 18 to 19 other than the color. In 2018 they offered it in a red, white and blue, the same blue you see here. And for 2019 they changed that color lineup to red, black and blue. Also for 2018 they only gave you one key fob. Now these guys work with a key fob that kind of looks like this right here. And for the 2018 models they only gave you one, but starting with 2019 you get two key fobs. So it is a keyless. Everything works keyless. You just have to have the key in close proximity to the bike. But just to break down some of the basics for you here, Honda still uses a flat 6 engine in this guy. It's 4 valves per cylinder. One of the big changes they did when they remodeled this bike was they stopped using telescopic tube forks for the front end, and now they have a double wishbone front suspension. So as you look up under the bike here, you will see it's a double wishbone front suspension, not your standard motorcycle forks. And you look down by the handlebars, you'll see the rest of the suspension with the tie rod system tying into it. Now, one of the great things that this allows on this bike is now instead of your front suspension, normally when you would brake with the front brakes and your front suspension would give in, it would kind of be at an angle. And by going with this double wishbone front suspension, now it's more directly up and down. So this allowed Honda to move this engine slightly forward, about an inch forward, allowing them to center the weight more with your fuel under the seat here, not directly under here. And let's see, they did slim these guys down. Now, a lot of long-time Honda Goldwing riders have voiced concerns about the fact that they slimmed the luggage down, but Honda just didn't do it on a whim. You know, they put a lot of research into it and how the majority of their riders were riding, and they wanted to cut some weight on the bike, and they were able to shave about 85 pounds off of it. Now, even though they did slim the luggage down here, I'll show you the compartments. You still have a substantial amount of room here when you open these guys up. And it's an electronic button here that you'll see right here under my finger that opens these guys. And it's the same on each side. And then as you come around to the trunk, it's actually hid under the trunk, like on most cars that have a rear hatchback or what have you. Now, the first thing a lot of people are going to say is, can you fit 2 full-size helmets in here? I'm sorry to say, no, you cannot. You cannot fit 2 size large helmets in here. You may be able to get a size large and maybe an extra small in here, one angled in this way, one angled in this way, but you're not going to fit 2 large size helmets in the trunk. Then as we come around to the other side, again, electronic button, it'll pop open your other side. One thing to make note of, if for any reason you ever have the key fob in your hand and you lay it in any one of these 3 compartments and shut it, the compartments will not lock with the key fob in there. So you cannot lock your key up in any of your luggage compartments. It just won't allow it. Let's see here, let me take this off and get it out of the screenshot. But as we look at the bike here, you'll see for your rear passenger footrest, you actually, instead of having a peg, you actually have a little nice area here, a little footboard. And as you look right here at the footboard, you'll see this guy right here. Now, when I have these bikes on display, I try to keep these down because when they're up, they're so well styled, people don't automatically realize that these are the footrests, and they'll step on this little rubber guy right here. And just so you can see what this is just a little rubber covering for a steel bar. And what this steel bar, it's connected to the frame, and the sole purpose of that guy is when you lean the bike over, you have one here, and you have another one on the side of the engine right here. So if the bike leans over, these are the points that it catches at to stop it from leaning all the way over. Now, a lot of people will come into the dealership and they'll see that and they'll step on that, and they'll want to kind of pop out or pop off like that. It will just snap back into place, but just so you know, these bikes do have, those are pretty much the main features for this guy. They slimmed it down. They moved the engine an inch forward. They were able to do that because they changed the front suspension. They shaved about 85 pounds off the weight of the bike. It's still an 800-pound bike, but the weight is so low and centered when you sit on this bike and stand it up in comparison to, you know, some of the other large touring bikes that are out there. You really don't feel the weight as much. So you'll see, as I step over this guy, stand it up and put the foot peg up, I'm about 5'11", 180 pounds. I'm not a very big guy, but the bike handles really easy because it's so well balanced. Now, as the camera comes around to my left side here, here's another great feature about these bikes. Goldwings in the past have been notorious for having huge amount of buttons for everything, you know, and you can Google images and it's extraordinary the amount of button controls that they had. What they did when they redesigned this was they used a joystick control here. So you'll see I have a few buttons here, but they really slimmed down how you control everything. Now, under my left hand, what you see right here, that's an actual parking brake, because you'll notice I have no clutch. That's because this particular model is a 7-speed automatic. Now, even though this guy's an automatic, it does have a manual mode that you can put it in right here under my right thumb. And when you put it in that manual mode, here's your downshift, and on the reverse side, here's your upshift. So as you're riding, you can still shift electronically. Or if you keep it in full auto mode, and let's just say you want to come to a swift stop, and as you brake and the bike is automatically downshifting by itself, but you want to downshift faster, you can just press the button to downshift a few gears. Now, as you look at the display here, you'll see, in addition to the analog gauges, you have a full digital screen here. And you can access all the features of this bike either from the joypad under your thumb or from the center control right here. You'll see if I press the home button, you've got audio source, navigation, phone, vehicle settings, audio settings. We go back to navigation. You'll see that you have a full GPS system here. And one of the great things Honda does is they will give you 8 years of free map updates for their GPS system. Now, I know some of you guys are probably thinking, well, doesn't the new Honda have Apple CarPlay? It does have Apple CarPlay. So if you use an iPhone, you can connect your phone here and you can use the map system off of your phone. But the great thing about having Honda's GPS system is if you ever find yourself in an area with no cell connectivity, you can fall back on Honda's GPS system. Now, just to familiarize yourself some with the dash, if you look right here where you see the big N in tour mode, right here on my right control, the bike's in neutral, but this bike actually has 4 ride modes, and you'll see as you look at the dash, you have a sport mode, an economy mode or eco mode, a rain mode, and the tour mode. Now, some of you might see these heat seater lights flashing right here. That's because this bike hasn't been fully prepped yet, and there's a couple of plugs under the seat, one of which is the fuel pump. I have the battery hooked up right now just to give you a general view of the dash, but that's why these guys are blinking. But on that note, if you look here, not only do we have a seat heater for the driver, but as we pan behind me, we have a seat heater and a seat heater control for the passenger as well. In addition to that, as we pan back up to the front, We even have heated grips. And you'll see on the dash as we turn them on, they're on high. And each time you press the button, it turns the level of heat down on the grips until you turn it off. Now, once this bike is fully prepped and the plugs are connected under the seat, these blinking heat seeker lights would function exactly the same way as the grip heater that I just showed you. And let's see, if we pan over to the left here, you'll see we have different information that's displayed here. One is the ambient temperature. You can see the air. The fuel gauge, of course, the total miles, 0 miles. This is a new bike. Range. There's no fuel in the bike, so we currently have no range. But you access these controls, again, from right here. You can hit select, and as we watch the screen, you'll see the arrow change. And once we're on any one of these 3 categories, you can hit the set button, and you'll see the different options that it'll give you. From a mile per hour showing there to the ambient temperature, we can jump down to mileage and see trip A, trip B, total mileage. We can jump down to range, and it'll show us tire pressure for both front and rear. So those are just a few of the options there. We pan over to the right. Of course, we have our coolant system here. And this little guy that's sitting here, what he's showing you is the current ride mode that we're sitting in. And if we pan out, just to go back to the menu here, and I go into the vehicle settings, one of the settings on the DCT Tour model is this electronic suspension. And you have 4 ride modes. And what these ride modes indicate for this electronic suspension is they indicate one rider with luggage, 2 riders, or 2 riders with luggage. And one of the reasons I wanted to show you guys that is because a lot of times I'll have customers say, hey, why don't I just buy the non-tour mode and then buy the color matched tail trunk to go on it, and I can actually buy the bike at a lower cost. What they don't realize is that the non-tour bikes, the ones that don't have the tail trunk, don't have the electronic suspension on them. So of course you can do that, but you'll lose the electronic suspension. So if electronic suspension is not something you're interested in, absolutely you can get the look of a tour model by buying a non-tour model and then buying the color matched tail trunk to go on it and install that onto the bike. But again, you're going to lose this electronic suspension. And just to give you a general idea of some of the settings that you have in here as I scroll through, you have quite a number of settings in here. You have a back button. That was just for vehicle settings. You can jump into auto settings. Different sound settings you have here for headset, speaker, bass treble, bass boost. We can back up, go into general settings. There's a menu beep that you can engage and disengage. Right now I have it turned off because it's rather loud, so it would really come through on the video. You can do a full system reset, restore Apple CarPlay settings here, your Bluetooth, your phone. Again, I've talked to Honda directly. They're working on having Android's car feature built in as well, but right now the only phones that they're supporting is Apple's phone and the Apple CarPlay. We have a power windscreen here, so you'll see that's a windscreen at full height. Then I can lower it with the thumb control, and that's completely down. Now you can you can just adjust it somewhere in the middle and stop. And just so you know, as you're riding like this, when you stop the bike and park, whatever height the windscreen setting is in, once you park the bike and turn it off, it will automatically go down to its lowest setting. But then as soon as you get back on the bike and re-engage it and turn everything back on, it will resume its last position. And then as we look at some of the controls you see here, again we have a home button here, same as this guy. A back button, same as this guy over here. Your joypad with the inner in the center, same as this little guy. Horn, push to talk commands, of course your turn signals, your source for your radio, whether you're aux, Bluetooth, satellite, FM, AM, because you'll see the speakers here. And on the back we have speakers for the passenger as well. So this Honda does have a full stereo system. You can engage and disengage the audio right here with this button. Again, grip heater, seat heater, select, set, info screen. This info button will, depending on what screen you're on, it'll display different amounts of information across the bottom. So let's see if I jump into navigation. You'll see fuel consumption, trip A, trip B. You can keep it on this bar as you drive, especially if you drive in eco mode, and it will give you, your estimated miles per gallon as you're driving. Now, as we look at Honda's GPS here, I currently have it set in 3D mode, but you can actually, let me see here. You actually have a menu system here where you can turn navigation volume up and down. You can turn POI, points of interest, on or off. You can go into the menu of the GPS system itself. So this is different than the bike menu, but we can cycle through here and go into setup and go into map view settings, map setup, and you can see I have it set to heading up 3D, but I could just as well choose north up. And then when we back out of here, go home, go back to navigation, and you can see how your screen changes. And then of course, once you're in this screen, you see the scale is set to 600 feet. You can actually zoom out. Kind of, you can go all the way out until it shows a globe. Not that you would ever need to do that while you're riding the bike, but you may want to zoom out just to kind of get a rough bearing of where you're at, especially if you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of roads, and again, you're just trying to get your bearings. That's pretty much it for the 2019 Goldwing. Oh, let me show you the storage area here. I almost forgot. This button here will access the storage area, and they give you a foam insert. It's basically a sleeve. You can set your phone, and it's got a little notch on the side, and that's because you have a USB connection right here in this compartment. So you can put your phone in here and plug your USB cord, your power cord into your phone, and then the USB of it in right here. And then you have a little extra storage room there. Now they make this bike with an airbag. It's just a single airbag model, Goldwing Tour DCT. It only comes in red and black, but if you get the airbag model, then you lose this storage compartment because this is where your airbag sits. Oh, another great feature of this bike, I wish I could show you if it was completely prepped, is you have your run switch here. But one of the great things about these, on most motorcycles, you normally press this button down and hold it until it starts. On the Goldwing, you can literally just press it like that, let go, and the bike will start right up every time. It's actually pretty nice. Cruise control, set, resume, change your speed up or down, hazard lights. One last feature I wanted to point out that's great about these Goldwings is this button right here. It's actually your park assist mode button. So this bike has both a forward and reverse park assist mode. And what that does for you is that gives you a walking speed of 1.5 miles per hour, either in forward or reverse, and it will disable the throttle. So as you're walking this bike in park assist mode, should you have a foot slide that might cause you to twist the throttle, the bike isn't going to lunge out from under you. One of the phenomenal features about this bike. Also with the size of the bike, if you're attending a lot of bike events, Sometimes there's quite a huge crowd there, and depending on where you might have to park, it may be on a slight incline or a slight decline, just because of the number of bikes and people that are there. And then when you come out and you get ready to leave, things can be tight. And again, this bike is over 800 pounds, so just trying to walk this guy around and maneuver it can be somewhat rigorous. By having this park assist mode, you can simply sit on the bike and use this button to go either forward or reverse, baby step the bike back and forth, and then you're completely stable, and you most likely a lot less chance to drop the bike. Another great feature to make note of about the Goldwing is the maintenance schedule on these bikes because of how well built they are. Most every bike in here, you'll have a break-in service of around 600 or 700 miles. And that's where you do your initial oil change or what have you, and your initial safety check, all your torques, things like that. On these Honda Goldwings, you don't do your first break-in service until the 4,000 mile mark. And then after you do that initial break-in, where you do your first oil change at 4,000 miles, then your service intervals are once every 4,000 miles, but your oil changes are once every 8,000 miles. So, really phenomenal bike, really well made. I mean, Honda Goldwing, the name itself precedes itself in terms of quality, functionality, and the following that these bikes have, and it's well worth it. And although they did slim this bike down, which took away from some of the luggage storage area that you had on older models, this is one of my favorite bikes. Absolutely one of my favorite bikes. If I was doing a transcontinental tour, it would be on this bike, most definitely. Anyway, that's it for the Honda Goldwing 2019. I'm Tom with Mission Motorsports here in Irvine. We're located off of 1 Doppler. Our phone number is 949-582-0351. You can reach us online at missionmotorsports.com. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and like button on this video. And there's also a little notification bell there on YouTube if you want to be notified when we put up new videos. That way you don't miss out on them. And thanks for watching, guys.